Hey, what's up? This is Brent Monis here with DJ Monty Entertainment, and in this video, I want to talk about exactly what your wedding day is going to be like. This video is geared towards, of course, your wedding event. So you book a DJ for your special wedding day, and if you hire a high-quality DJ such as myself, if you happen to be local in the between Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo area where I'm at, or if you happen to be watching this from across the country somewhere, at least this will give you an idea of some things that you can look for or to watch out for in that aspect. So as far as what I do for my clients when it comes to their weddings is you have to think of it this way. All the way up until the day of your event, you accumulate a lot of stress. You have to book your venue, your DJ, your photographers, videographers, your stationery. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to plan out, and there's a lot of stress. You want to make sure everything goes in order the way exactly that you want it. And my job on the day of your wedding is to alleviate as much of that stress as possible. And what I mean by that is being able to provide a smooth flow and transition of events. Okay, let me tell you how this works. All right, I'm not just some typical kind of run-of-the-mill and average across the street kind of DJ. It's all about providing a high quality level of service to my clients. So in other words, anywhere from your ceremony to the end of your reception is you should not have to have to stress out at all whatsoever. Now ceremonies, they're pretty standard. Don't really typically have to show up for rehearsals on those. We can talk about them beforehand because I may be booked the night before because a lot of weddings usually take place on a Saturday. And I mean, if I'm booked on a Friday, then I don't really have to worry about it unless there are some special circumstances, then we talk about it. And if I'm not booked, I need to show up for rehearsal, I can. But typically I don't really need to worry about that as much because it's pretty substandard. It's the bride walking down the aisle, and if there's a candle or unity ceremony, I can throw in the music in between there as well. Of course, there's the prelude music, the recessional, precessional, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty standard, pretty routine. I've done hundreds of these things, so not too much to really have to worry about right there. Now, when it comes to your reception, on the other hand, this is where there's going to be a lot of somewhat of choreographing with you and the bridal party on the events that are to come, especially in the beginning. So typically what happens when everybody starts to show up to the reception, I will start the music then, so that way folks can walk in, music's already playing, they can sit down, they can relax and just sit and prepare and snacks or whatever the case may be. When you show up, and depending on if you have a social hour or a cocktail hour or anything of that matter, we talk about that beforehand and how we're going to handle that. But when the reception comes around, this is really where, especially when the bridal party shows up, this is where a lot of these things start to take place. Now, think of me as a wedding day facilitator. Now, of course, I can't plan out your wedding. That's what you need to hire a wedding planner for. And I'll talk about where you need to maximize your budget in a different video. But on the day of your event, I'm going to facilitate your wedding. I'm the one with the microphone. I'm the one who's going to be making the announcements and letting everybody know ahead of time what is to come later on as time progresses. And alongside of that, I'm going to be coming up to you, the bride and groom, or the couple, and letting you know what's going on. All you really have to do is sit back, relax, and just enjoy time with your friends, your family, socialize, dance, and you don't need to worry about anything else. You don't need to worry about coming up to me, asking me what's going to happen. You let me take control of that, and I'll let you know, okay, well, here's what's going to happen next. Now, granted that before all of this, during the consultation and in the meetings that we have up until that point, we're going to talk about those significance of events. And I'm going to tell you from my experience on traditional ways, maybe some other ways or different ways that how people have done their weddings. And then you can say either yes or no, I want to do it this way, or I want to do it this way. Now, once that's all said and done, and that's done before the wedding, I'm going to shuffle that accordingly, according to what we talked about before. If there's anything that's different, don't worry about it. I'll handle it once it comes to the day of your wedding. Now, During the reception, typically what usually happens is the introduction of the bridal party. So as soon as the wedding party or bridal party, as soon as the wedding party shows up, I'll I'll get the crowd hyped up. I'm gonna get it's kind of an attention getter, something I like to do. I like to have a big intro and get everybody's attention, get everybody hyped up, get them clapping, and get them excited. Then we're going to introduce the wedding party, and at this point, it's to where you can do it one of a few ways. Now, typically, most of the time, what happens is I'll play one song, one intro song for the wedding party, and then a different intro song for the bride and the groom. In some cases, what I've done before is the wedding party, with all the way up from the bridesmaids and groomsmen to the maid or matron of honor to the best man. They will each couple will have their own song or snippet of a song that they want to walk into, kind of do a little spin-a-rooney on the dance floor, and then go to the head table. We can do that as well. So there's a couple of options that we can always talk about and do that. So you'll notice that that's part of the introduction part. And then there's a couple other different things you can do. When I introduce the bride and the groom, you can either walk right into your first dance, which a lot of people will do, or you can wait until after the toast, after dinner and then after toast, and then do your first dance, and then do the parent dance following afterwards. It's completely up to you. In some cases, to where if there were certain spacing restrictions, that I may go outside when I meet the bridal party outside, and I meet the bride and groom outside, and let them know, hey, there's tables and chairs that are set up everywhere, and it's even covering the dance floor. So what we're going to do is we're just going to wait until after dinner, or after the toast, and then we'll just get people to kind of move tables out of the way, whether it's actually people in the crowd, some of your guests, or if it's some of the caterers or people that work there to help break down the tables, move them out of the way so that way you can open up space for the dance floor. And then after the toast, you can go into your first dance as bride and groom. After that, I typically would follow the parent dances, of course, father bride and then mother groom, and then usually right after that would be cutting of the cake. And then we can kind of, throughout the evening, I'm going to kind of shuffle things around. Like you can do the anniversary dance, you can do a dollar dance, you can do a shoe game. There's other different things that you can do, and I'll give you those options as we do our consultations and our meetings. And of course, you've always got the bouquet toss and sometimes the garter toss. Some people choose to do a garter toss. There are some people who just choose to completely skip out on it for other reasons. The choice is completely up to you. As far as music requests, you can definitely make as many music requests as you want to, but keep in mind that there's a couple different ways that this can go. You can either choose your whole entire playlist for the whole night, which is perfectly fine. It is your special day, and you're more than welcome to do that. So the pro of that is that you get every song that you possibly want throughout the night, but the cons or the downside is going to be that I'm not really going to be able to take requests throughout the night, because I'm going to have to tell people making requests saying, well, the entire playlist was up to the bride and groom, so I'm not able to take requests. So I'm going to throw that back on you, because if you're going to make 3 hours worth of requests, then that's going to be between you and your guest, because my hands are tied in that aspect. The other downfall is that you're typically going to make, for brides and grooms that typically make requests for the whole entire evening, the music mindset is not usually typically the mindset of a DJ. So keep that in mind. You're going to expect me to play songs that I either should be playing in the beginning of the night while people are just sitting and socializing, but maybe I wasn't able to get to all of those songs, and then you're going to expect me to play that while people are supposed to be on the dance floor dancing, and it's not quite necessarily music that you're going to go out and typically hear on the dance floor while people are dancing. So just keep that kind of mind. So really, in other words, you have kind of butting of the heads between whether bride and groom are coming up with a playlist and the DJ trying to shuffle those accordingly and to make that mix, for me to be able to make that mix the absolute best that I possibly can. And so then that can lead into a domino effect into complaints and, the guest coming up to me and asking me to change the song. People aren't dancing, and just kind of keep that in mind. All right, you are going to have those negative effects. On the other hand, what you can do, and my alternative to that, is give me 10 to maybe 15 of your absolute favorite songs that you have to hear throughout the night, and then I can shuffle those accordingly, whether I put them during the social hour or I put them for people to dance on the dance floor, whether it's your top 40 or some of your oldies or your classics or even your slow songs, of course. And then you've got a bunch of options there in between. When it comes to the dollar dance, usually that can be slow music, usually about 4 or 5 songs in a row to give everybody a chance to come up to dance with the bride and the groom. When it comes to the anniversary dance, that's really just one song, and that comes down up to the couple that's been married the longest. So we give the grandparents and somewhat give grandparents time to shine. They've been married for 60 plus years, and usually what I'll do is I'll go up to the grandparents. I'll say, well, give everybody else, give some of these younger generations, these younger couples, especially the bride and groom, your advice on how to stay married for over 60 years, and they'll give their input, whether they want to speak on the mic or I just kind of repeat what they say. So that gives you a really good idea of how the night's going to go. But keep in mind this too, throughout the night, it's my job to read the crowd. If they're not quite fitting into one genre of music and they're not dancing, it's up to me to kind of transition into something different to see what the crowd enjoys the most, but to also to be able to balance between some of the new stuff for the younger crowds, and then of course some of the older stuff for the the parents and the grandparents and that kind of thing. So that's really how, as far as the music aspect and in a nutshell, how the night is going to work. But let me tell you what else you're investing in whenever you hire a professional DJ, and not just a $500 or $600 DJ. I'm talking a high quality. You're probably going to spend anywhere from outside of the whole COVID restriction thing at the time of me recording this video. But when I say that, I'm talking about your average crowd is going to consist of over 100 people, 100 to maybe 150 people on average. So you're talking about, it's like, I'm going to have 4 speakers because I want speakers in the back. I want everybody to be able to hear. I'm going to also include uplighting in that as well, because I think that uplighting is just as important as everything else, simply because that if you're going to pay a substantial amount of money into a DJ, and there's reasons why I think that you should, and I've got another video for that. Definitely check that out, why your mobile DJ is so important for your wedding. But if you're going to invest that amount of money, I'm going to show you why, and I'm going to bring that value to your wedding dance. I'm going to bring that value to you, and it's basically what it is. It's a difference between just kind of plain versus extravagant, if you will. So however you want to imagine that, definitely feel free to do that. But also, even go into, it's not just about playing the music and reading the crowd. It's also about communicating with the other vendors, especially the photographer. Now, I'm going to have another video that talks about how to manage your budget and to invest in photographers, videographers, and that kind of thing. But I'm going to communicate with other vendors. Your photographer is going to need to know when those special events are coming up, such as the formal dances, the introduction of the wedding party, to the cutting of the cake, to the anniversary dance, to the bouquet and garter toss, to the shoe game. If that's what you decide to do. And then also I'm going to be communicating with the caterers to make sure that they pour the champagne in time. And of course, now you can choose if you want champagne to be poured or if you just want whatever's in your glass. And of course, we talk about that during our consultation and our meetings leading up to the event. But just for example, I'm going to communicate with those vendors to ensure that this stuff is ready to go before certain events take place. For example, I'm going to walk up, as I know that it's getting close to time to cut the cake, I'm going to make sure that there's a knife on the table before the bride and groom, go up and even cut the cake. I've had that happen before, to where it was getting close to time, and there was, some minutes before it was time for cutting the cake. And I walked up to the table where the cake was, and there was no knife. So the bride and groom would have walked up to the table, they would have had no knife, and I'm playing the cake cutting song, and people are sitting and looking around and wondering what's going on. And the bride and grooms would have been confused if I had not found that person who was in charge of having that utensil there for the bride and groom to cut the cake. So you see why this is so important, and you see why I can consider myself and many others like me high quality DJs. We're not just playing music and we're not just making announcements. We have to facilitate how things are going to take place during your wedding day and during your wedding dance. So that's why that's so important. So I hope this helps, and this really gives you kind of a really big picture on why it's so important to invest into your DJ. Now, when I say invest, of course, not doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get money back or have any kind of equity or anything. But what it means is that this is one day, one special day for the rest of your life. And you want everything to go perfect, or as perfect as it can be. And this is why this is an investment. And you want to be able, because you're going to have photographs and you're going to have videos, you want to be able to look back on that day and think of how awesome that your wedding day was. And one of the reasons for that, and one of the biggest reasons that is going to happen, is how that event was facilitated. The fact that you didn't have to do it, your spouse or bride or groom didn't have to do it, or an aunt or an uncle or a parent or a cousin didn't have to do it, that the DJ was able to facilitate those significant events in a smooth flow and transition. And you can look back on that 20 years later and think about how perfect that it was. And you're going to look at your spouse and be like, wow, you know what? I'm glad we spent the money that we did on our DJ, because everything was smooth. It was great. It flowed together. It transitioned together perfectly. And just the way we were able to talk with our DJ beforehand, and the way that we didn't really even have to worry about anything. Our DJ came up to us and he said, okay, well, it's about getting close to time. Everybody's gotten through eating, so we're going to go ahead and start getting into the toast. And you're going to say, okay, cool. That sounds great, right? And it's as simple as that. You don't need to worry about that stress. You let me worry about that stress. That's my job. So I hope this helps, and definitely reach out to me. If you have any questions, like, subscribe, comment, let me know if you need anything. I'm Brett Monastery with DJ Monty Entertainment. Take care, and I'll see you on the other side.